I can't help but think about the relationship between human beings and other animals, and thinking about the divine. And I was just thinking to myself yesterday while I'm petting my dog, and he's just looking at me with the biggest, glossiest eyes and just truly seeing straight through me, that the very same essence that is in me is in him. And that is how we're able to connect. That, in truth, the divine essence, the divine that is within me, is in every other living thing. It is certainly in him. And what's just so interesting is that no matter where the divine manifests itself, it can be in so many forms. And it really does make the world a much more interesting place. And it truly makes it so amazing that it can manifest in so many ways. And really, when you talk about sons and daughters of God, it really means everyone. Because with that divine energy embodied within all of us, doesn't that make us all in its image, not just mankind? And really, the only difference between us is which physical form we took when that energy was used on the earth. And the physical realm is very different from the astral realm, from the higher self, because this is something that I came up with in high school. I wrote it down, I drew it, and I really should put it online. But I realized that there are two completely separate laws, and that is why we struggle so hard in life. You have natural law, and you have civilized law. Now, as an adult, or at least a much more mature adult, I may change it slightly from its original idea, but the idea was that the main bubble was natural law, and this was when I was very Darwinian. I was atheist. Even though I was brought up Christian, I never embraced it because it just didn't fit right. I felt it was very masculine. I really don't like the violence in the Bible. Not that I'm a total wuss, but I really just see it as just so lowly. I really read some of the stories and just say, oh, please, that's so sad that you all think that way. I really, really resonated with reading about the life of the Buddha so much more, because it was just so much more meaningful. It fit me as a person better. I'll say that. I'm not a violent person at all, and so the Bible really didn't make much sense to me. I did try to read it, I just couldn't get through it. I didn't enjoy it. No sense in reading something you don't enjoy. I know enough that I know it doesn't fit me. I'll say that. However, I still have a lot of conflicts with it. Even with that laid to rest and understanding it's not for me. Especially when it comes to the stories. And, you look at the story of the Buddha. At no point does he ever claim to be a Messiah. At no point does he ever claim to be Son of God. Yeah, aren't we all? He never claims to be anything more than a mortal human being who simply is looking for something better. Your higher self, something better than what is here, and to get closer to the divine, to deity. So he just wants to find that closeness and oneness in the world, because, being born a prince, he had anything and everything he ever wanted. But as a person, that's not what he was. he would have been an awful king, because he simply could not rule a land with poor people in it. It seriously bothered him, and rightly so. It should. It should bother you, and it did. And so he basically spent the vast majority of his adult life trying to find peace with that. Trying to find peace with the fact that there are people dying, animals dying, in this world, simply given a bad hand from the start. Born into a poor family, into a bad situation, and simply can't get out of it. And he struggled a lot with that, and a lot of his teachings have to do with that struggle and trying to cope, to the point where he nearly killed himself through starvation. He simply refused to eat. He was so upset about it. Such a huge sacrifice to refuse food. The one thing that will save you, you refuse it. You say, I just don't want it. So he didn't finally eat until it was offered to him, until a woman saw him half dead in meditation pose. But the artwork of him are ghastly, and the descriptions written about him are really severe. I mean, I really didn't think someone could wither away that much and still be alive. He was barely alive. And this woman sees him, and out of sheer compassion tells him to please eat, that it would upset her if he didn't. And so for that reason, he took the rice, because he didn't want to cause her grief. It was not a selfish moment of, I need this. It was never an I. But out of that, he has an epiphany and realizes that there is so much more to this world than guilt. And it goes a lot deeper than that. I'm just not going to go into it now, but that kind of story I absolutely loved. And I look at the story of Jesus, and I think the storytellers are the ones who are probably off. I don't think he ever tried to claim to be anything more than a mortal being just like Buddha. I think both are healers. They both, could do wonderful things with the mind and through energy. And that is essentially magic, which is what the stories are about. People seeing these first-hand accounts of magical events. So both are healers, extremely wise individuals here on this earth as mortals like anyone else. They simply have a much closer connection to the one source than the rest of us, and that is what gives them their divinity. That is what gives them their power. But as far as being quote unquote the Son of God, we are all that. There is no one person that I believe has more than anyone else. It should be a fair and even distribution. We are all, myself, my dog, everything, not just people. We are all quote-unquote sons of God. And we all have the ability to get closer. And we also have the ability to go farther. But I don't think any one of us is, quote-unquote better than anyone else. I think it's just a matter of closeness. So not using the word good, bad, better, worst, not using those words. I'm going to use closeness. So there are those of us who are closer, and there are those of us who are farther. And if you want that kind of divinity like that, you have to get closer. You cannot go farther and get it. And the further you go, the more it just doesn't make any sense anyway. It goes hand in hand. So I really just I just struggle with the idea of thinking that other living things possess any less of it. I think that the differences between us, it has nothing to do with intelligence. We cannot even grade intelligence among ourselves, let alone other beings on this planet. So it's ridiculous that anyone should ever think that they could grade intelligence. Dogs, for example, okay? We grade, not even just say canines, because that includes wild animals too. Domesticated dogs, okay? We grade their intelligence based on tests. These tests are obedience tests. Automatically, if you know anything about wild animals, you know anything about wolves in the wild, you will know this test is flawed severely. The way the test goes is the dog is given commands and is taught different tricks. And it is based on how quickly they pick it up and how well they can perform the task. So what happens if you get an alpha? Alphas are the leaders. They don't care how big you are. They will not listen to you. You will not get an alpha to do your little tricks. Does it mean he is unintelligent? Absolutely not. It could be a she too. Alpha is a parent. But it is a type A, I guess, is what we call them. Type A's are very serious, in terms of people. They're very serious. They're very business oriented. Everything is business, and no funny business is allowed. So very serious individuals, and they do not take orders very well. They like to command. And so when you get that kind of animal, and you get a dog that is commander, he's going to look at you, or she's going to look at you like you're crazy. No, I will not be doing that. Thank you. And I don't want your treats. Can I go now? So you can already see how the test is so flawed. And you are going to get individuals who do exceedingly well are going to be the lower level members, because that's what they do. Their world is all about appeasing the leader. And so they will do whatever it is that they need to do to please you if they recognize you as their leader. So the intelligence tests, even among dogs, is stupid. It really is. It's not accurate. And yet we hold it as truth. And we do the same thing with people too. We try to grade ourselves as if some of us are just smarter than others, and it just has so many variables. It's silly to even try to think that we could know what level you are. We are just at the cusp of what intelligence really is. Everything on this planet has intelligence. It has to. You cannot be in the natural world where survival of the fittest is alive and well and think that you're just going to meander through life without intelligence. It's not going to happen. You will not exist. Your species will be gone in no time. So every living thing has intelligence. They have to, because they must figure out how to either get away from predators or to hunt down their prey, and that requires intelligence. Okay. So, what is the difference between humans and animals? And again, this is my theory. I have no solid proof. But I am thinking it is not intelligence. It has to do with what I was talking about before, with your closeness to deity. When you look at, and I don't know the name of it, but picture in your mind a pyramid. And the bottom layer is basic instincts. These are what you need to survive. It is intelligence at its core. This is where a lot of beings on this planet reside, humans included. There are those of us who simply deny anything else. We're just absolutely barbaric. So, it's a matter of thinking. At the top of this pyramid is, of course, your higher self, or as close to deity as you can get. so you can see the level. So at the lowest level, you are very, very far away from the one. And I think that's what we are trying to compare to. We just don't realize that's what it is. We just see other things on this planet, and in trying to figure out why we are different, we immediately point to intelligence, and it's not intelligence. It is your distance from deity, your distance from the divine. Those who are the farthest do not care about civilized things. And when I talk about civilized things, we go back to the chart I made when I was younger. Natural law has to do with the lower pyramid. Natural law is, you know what? Save yourself. Do what you can for yourself and your family to ensure that your species lives on. It is all about procreation. It is all about using your basic instincts to get you through life, because life is hard. You don't have the luxury of making art, of playing music. You just don't have it. And a lot of animals, and I say animals, I mean all, earthworms, everything. A lot of beings on this planet are like this. Their lives simply do not allow the time for leisure. They're constantly working. Ants, bees, for example. There is no leisure time. And so it is very easy to look at these organisms and think of them as being lowly, but they are not. They're extremely intelligent once you get to know them, and you will find out that it's simply the way that their life is constructed that makes it so hard for you to understand. They are just not like you. So the further up the pyramid you go, the more of a connection humans seem to have. And different animals fall in different places. And again, this has to do with environment. It has to do with their life. If they just don't have leisure time, you will not understand why they are so crazy in their methods. You will not understand it, because you don't have to worry about your food every single day. You go out and you buy it. You go out and you get it, or you make it. You don't have to hunt for your food. You don't have to worry about whether where you are migrating will have enough water for you. You just don't have the daily basic worries that these animals have. And so they will come off as very cold to you, and they will come off as being not intelligent. And I say that with an odd face because I know it's not intelligence, but I think that's where the misconception comes. Let's see if I can get over here before I get pinched out. So I think that is where the confusion lies. You're using the wrong word in the wrong context. It is not intelligence. And so you must understand the lifestyle of the other organisms that you are judging. And mind you, this is something that I'm always quick to say, because I volunteer time every week at an animal rescue center, and this is for wild animals, by the way. Although when I was a kid, the pound was always a great place for me to be. But right now it's all about wild animals, because they're just as needy, and it's something I've decided to dedicate myself to right now. But you learn a lot from them. And anytime someone asks me, like this week, we've had rainstorms, and we get a lot of what I call tree babies. We get a lot of baby squirrels that get blown out of the nest, and it's very sad, because sometimes the mother just can't pick them all up, because they crawl and they scatter, and they can get lost, and then they'll die. So people find them, or the people's dog finds it, and that's how we get them. And so people will look at me raising these squirrels and think of it as silly. Oh, it's just a squirrel. They're so common. And yet I could easily turn that around and say, couldn't you say the same thing for people? We are so very common. Far from endangered. And yet we will still go out of our way to save anyone who needs saving. Isn't it the same? Why would you judge another creature any less? And so I will ask, before you question the significance of others, I ask that you question your own. Really, what is your significance? What makes you so wonderful? What makes you worth saving and this other organism not worth saving? Explain it to me, please, because I need to be enlightened. And I know they can't explain it, because there's no reasoning behind it. There's no truth to it. It's all based on misconceptions. And so the argument is over at that point. There's nothing they can say, or at least nothing intelligent. There's the word again. There's no reasoning. They'll only come up with emotions. And emotions can live by themselves. They don't need rationality to exist. They have their place, but that sort of argument has no place for it. It's very straight and narrow. Prove to me that your significance exceeds theirs, and maybe I'll consider. Maybe I won't. But I don't think you can, to be honest. So that's the lesson learned. It is very easy to point fingers and to judge. It is very easy to say, oh, well, you don't have a right to live. I do. But in reality, anyone who does that is already wrong by religious teachings. And I say this because a lot of these individuals consider themselves religious. You do not have the power of God. You do not have that power of judgment. It is not your place. And it's not your place for good reason. You simply don't have the wisdom. And if you did, you wouldn't judge. Because your wisdom would explain to you why you are so different from the individual you were trying to judge. And so it's just proof, when people are judgmental, that they simply don't know. And that's all it is.